will seek and I will find, while I try to keep a steady mind. I will follow all the signs. This healing takes time. I will find my way back home. We're all going home. Listen to the beat of your heart when you don't know where to go. We're all going home. Listen to the song that's playing on your own soul's radio. Change will come, change will go. I'm on the right track, but a different road. I'm gonna go where the wind blows, till the end, till my heart knows. Till I find a place called home. And what I need, I never lost. Well, I try to keep my fingers crossed. What I want is what I've got, what is true and what is not. I know I'm not alone. We're all going home. Listen to the beat of your heart when you don't know where to go. Going home. Listen to the song that's playing on your own soul's radio. Listen to the beat of your heart when you don't know where to go. We're all going home. Listen to the song that's playing on your own soul's radio. Listen to the song that's playing on your own soul's radio. Listen to the song that's playing on your own soul's radio.
Good morning. Awesome video, awesome photos. It seemed weird if something like that didn't happen, right? All right, my name is Taylor Chadwick, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to all of you. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual, spiritual, and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you would like to learn more about this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for our coffee hour. For your listening enjoyment of all, we ask that this time that you please turn off all cell phones. Also, if you need hearing support, please ask for help at the sound desk. All right, thank you to everyone who assisted at Rich Hackles and Kenley Inglefeld's memorial service. The list includes Annette Long, Carolee Searles, yeah, I apologize, Dwight Fish, Emily Morrison, Franco Avila, Janelle Crump, Joan Claiborne, Ken Claiborne, Linda Becker, Mary Adams, Oksana Werbian, Oksana, oh, thank you. Pam Wycliffe, Phyllis Hostetler, Sherry Mellon, TJ Sham, Terry Mark, and William Becker. Apologies if someone was missed or name was mispronounced. Thank you to TJ Sham for leading the crew that included TJ, Ken Claiborne, Steve Kripe, and Chuck Bauer to work on weeding and mulch on Thursday. The Social Justice Committee is collecting for blessing bags through Sunday, June 23rd. The bins are located by the restroom in the gathering place. See the bin labels for items needed. With light summer clothing and soft, chewy bars with the most essential. And then there are volunteer sheets getting passed around. And we're looking for volunteers June and July. Thank you. Have a good service.
I'm Steve Kripe, a member of the Worship and Arts Committee, and I will be serving as the worship associate this morning. We ring the gong 3 times, once for those who came before us and made a place for us. And once for those who are here now. And once for those who will come after and build on the dream. The chalice lighting this morning are my thoughts regarding the actual service that we're going to participate in. We light the chalice this morning, remembering that we are on this earth as a result of the natural order of the universe. We are here as earth guests to be faithful stewards of our home. May the light of the candle represent the sun, the molten lava from the numerous volcanic craters on the Earth's surface, and the blazing stars in the night sky. May the heat from the candle's light remind us of the changing seasons, of the pleasure and energy we receive from the diversity and wonder of all the Earth's inhabitants, humans, animals, the fish of the sea, and the birds of the air. And may the candle itself represent every life-sustaining element we receive in our daily lives to continue to have breath and the capacity to understand and appreciate the awesome experience of living out our lives in relation to all things around us. Would you recite with me now, as listed in the order of service, the Unison Covenant? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. The children can now be dismissed for our eating. We have a couple of visitors this morning, maybe more than 2, and 1064 in the teal hymnal is the longest one in the book in terms of page turning. So if I get lost, you just have to follow me or follow yourselves, but this is a favorite of ours, Blue Boat Home, number 1064. Please stand if you're willing and able, and let's sing. The words should be on the screen. Stand, please. Where has your journey taken you? The wonder of animals. I remember an experience as a young person that profoundly affected me for the rest of my life. I had discovered as a youth advisor in my early 20s something very alarming and eye-opening. We were hosting some young people from South Bend, Indiana, and our activity that day was to go to the zoo. These were kids of middle school and high school age. All of them had never been out of their neighborhoods in South Bend and had never seen, let alone pet, smell, or feed many of the animals they discovered it for the first time in their lives that day. How did that impact me so strongly? From that day forward, every trip I took, no matter how short or small, I would think of those kids stuck in the inner city. El Salvador, literally my mountaintop trip of my life, came in 2012. Again, with a group of young people, I was blessed and privileged to depart on June 23rd and spend until July 1st with friends of the sister church of the Manchester Church of the Brethren, Iglesia Bautista Emmanuel in San Salvador, El Salvador. Takeaways from that journey, as I prefer to call them, forever moments that were etched in my mind are cold showers, and I really did get used to them. The morning crow of the roosters in the mountains starting at 4 a.m. Watching the families start their days in their huts tucked on the side of various mountain peaks, part of the Sierra Madre mountain chain. Poverty everywhere. Our wonderful caretakers, being not the typical tourists, we had to have special treatment because we had to be careful. Even the food in the restaurants that we ate, everything had to be prepared because local food in the places we were at, even in El Salvador, a big city, was questionable, and we could have gotten sick. So they really took care of us with our food. Natalie's lunch and hospitality. I have a picture on the table of little Natalie. She was 10 years old at the time. The picture beside there is of her house. We were 50 miles from El Salvador, out in the middle of nowhere. Chickens, wild dogs, no plants, just trees, a few trees, dirt, stones, junk. I mean, utter poverty. And if you've ever seen an oasis, maybe you haven't, this was an oasis. They had set the table in this little house with a beautiful tablecloth and fresh vegetables and fruits and stuff that they couldn't even afford. But I always think about little Natalie. She's probably in her 20s now. But she came out and met us at the bus. And while we were eating, or after we were done, an ice cream wagon went by on a bicycle. And she got so excited because she wanted to buy us all ice cream. But we couldn't eat the ice cream because we had gotten sick. And she didn't understand that. But we bought her some. Remnants of the Civil War remaining 20 years later. Every public place, every restaurant, every spot in the city had piles of debris, shrapnel of bombs from the Civil War, and of which, of course, the United States was covering the wrong side, of course, so we didn't have a good reputation down there. Pictures of who am I thinking of? Reagan, all over the place. But we went to schools and talked to the children, and every one of those kids, the dream of their life is to somehow make it to America, in spite of how they felt about us. But these kids that we saw weren't even involved in the Civil War. That was way before their time, but they still loved the idea of coming to America. I've been privileged in my lifetime to actually work and establish relationships with people in almost every state east of the Mississippi, as well as travel in many others throughout the United States. I know many of you have similar experiences on a global basis, even having family members on the other side of the world. What is my point? Travel anywhere takes us out of our comfort zone of home, forces us to pay more attention to our surroundings. Whether it be climate differences, language differences, or overall cultural differences, we automatically find ourselves in a different place in travel. Hopefully, most of these experiences are educational, exciting, and inspiring. The scenery, the new people, possibly new friends along the way, all contribute, I believe, to a more well-rounded person once we return home. I need to share this little side anecdote that happened last Thursday on my way home from the church here. My father passed away on June 5th, 1954. Three days from now will be the 70th anniversary, or 4 days. I was 10 years old. He was living with his parents at the home at the time of his death, Grandma and Grandpa Grace and Floyd Kripe, in the red brick home on Johnson Street, just 2 doors north of the Madrell Boulevard. I told Karen when I started attending UFE, someday I will run into the people that live in that house, and I want to introduce myself. Thursday, a little old German lady, at least in her 90s, was blowing out the driveway with a gas-powered blower. If any of you have ever used one of them, you can't get that started on the first crank. I don't know how she got that thing started. I pulled in and introduced myself, told her my story, and complimented her on how nice the house still looks, and it really does, and wished her well for many more years. She's been a widow for 3 years. This little trip was 70 years in the making, almost to the day. I had been scheduled to have an overnight stay with my father the day that he had passed away. The offering this morning is going to be 100% contribution to our sustainability fund, so please give and receive generously.
On the road again, just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends, and I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, going places that I've never been, seeing things that I may never see again. And I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, like a band of gypsies, we go down the highway. We're the best of friends, persistent as the world keep turning our way, and our way. On the road again, just can't wait to get on the road. The
We had to get that song in. Well, Chuck, you don't need any introductions, but I'm going to introduce you anyway. He did a fabulous job yesterday at Kenley's service. Did a lot of planning on it and a lot of hard work, and he was relieved when it was over, so as some of us were. But it was a great service. And Chuck had a tremendous experience of a lifetime that he wants to share with you this morning. And we're all looking forward to it. He's going out as chair of the Worship and Arts Committee, but will be the vice chair of the board starting in July 1st. So we'll overtake his responsibilities and try to do as good a job as he's done. Thank you, Chuck.
I have pictures I'm going to go through, so if you want to move now so you can see the pictures better, do so. And then I'll try to remember what it is I'm going to say. No, I know what I'm going to say. I've got a little outline. You know, my message is about the spirit of the Camino. That's what it's really about. And I'm going to blow through really quick a few things about the Camino and some logistics, because I don't really want to concentrate on that. I want to concentrate on the spirit. So let's talk about, oh, and I do have a bunch of materials on a table in the gathering place. Lots of information you can look at during coffee hour. Anyway, so yes, first slide. Oh, Ken's already there, all right. So I'm going to take this off so I can point a little. The Camino is a great number of routes. It's not just one route. The movie The Way is made based on the French route, which is the most popular route, which starts up here, technically just inside France. Even though 99% of it is in Spain, it's the French route. Going over to Santiago de Compostela. And my route was the Portuguese route, which is the second most popular route. And I did not start at Lisbon, I started at Porto. And you know, this is a pilgrimage to Santiago, which is where St. James' remains are supposed to be buried in the cathedral there. So as you can see with all these routes, people are coming from all over Europe. These are the main routes. There are at least 10 or 12 more little sub-routes to get to one of the main routes. And if you even look at the yellow up here, it's not very easy to see, but there's really 3 routes out of Porto, 3 out of Porto that's considered the Portuguese route, and then there's another variant as you get close to Santiago. Over 12 days of walking, I had 382,000 steps and 176 miles. And I did switch to metric while I was there because, of course, everything there is in metric, right? So, Ken, next slide. Signs. How do you know where you're going? Well, you've got signs. And these signs are all over, and you're following that yellow arrow, with the scallop shell being the symbol of the Camino. And down at the bottom, it's hard to see, that says KM 91.170. So I was just a little over 91 kilometers away from Santiago at that point, or 50 some miles. Next slide. So what are the most important things you gotta have? I've got one of them in my pocket, but most important things besides your pack, your money, your passport. On the far left there is a guidebook by John Brearley, and I lost mine partway through, of course. But besides these items, I'm wearing my shell, which I got at a shell ceremony here in South Bend, well, Mishawaka, but with the South Bend American Pilgrims on the Camino group. And they do, local groups will do shell ceremonies, and you can get this from from that national organization if you're not part of a local group. Everybody wears these on their pack, by the way. Like, we're all hot, tired, sweaty, wearing a pack. This is so people know we're pilgrims, like they can't tell otherwise, right, without that. And then the item on the right is called a credential, which I think I have over there. If I don't, I'm disappointed, but it's a fold-out, light cardboard booklet where you get stamps along the way, of which you have to get 2 every day for the last 100 kilometers to get a certificate. Next slide. And so what do you see along the way? You know, it's a religious pilgrimage for some people. Maybe we would also say it's a spiritual pilgrimage for some people. I think for some people it's a little tourist thing, maybe. It's a vacation. It's an adventure. It's all of these things. There are chapels, cathedrals on the way. I stopped at 3, or went into and visited 3 of the major cathedrals. There are shrines along the way. This was one of the biggest shrines I saw, monuments, and it's also happened to be a rest spot. But so this is a little bit about how I can show you through pictures and words about the Camino. But again, the most important thing to me is it's the spirit of the Camino. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read a poem I got a few weeks before I left. I shared some things from a poet and playwright by the name of Rich Orloff before, and this came to me a few weeks before, and I thought the universe was talking to me, or Rich was. And I emailed him back and told him that. I'm on an email list. It's entitled A Prayer for the Abandoned Self. The abandoned self waits patiently for your return. It has not abandoned you. It stands there like a child waiting to be picked up after school. Do not return to your abandoned self with demands. Return with flowers in your hand. The self, too, knowing of neglect, may be suspicious at first. Step slowly. Fears will melt over time under the warm sun of a caring, loving you. The soul is not here to serve you. You are here to shepherd it up and down mountains, through treacherous waters and golden fields. One day you will realize how far you had to travel to return to the place where your spirit lives, hoping someday you'd return and say hello. So that just spoke to me, and I took a copy with me on the Camino. So maybe even before I ask or get to the spirit of the Camino, I want to ask a question of you all. When I told people I was going to go on a Camino, what did they ask me? What was the first question they asked me? What do you think? Why? No, that is not what they asked me. Who are you going with? Joan? Pam? Pam's on Zoom. People ask me that. That was the first question. Who are you going with? I said, nobody. You're not going with anybody? Like it was, I was going off to war or something. And yes, the question they should have asked me, I think, was why? But part of going on a Camino, and I can recount to you because I was there, obviously, on this Camino, but a lot of people go by themselves. A lot of people want the solitude. It's sometimes called a walking meditation. That's what they're looking for. They're looking for day after day of reflection, of being disconnected from the outside world, putting one foot in front of the other, and really having that time to think. That's what's important. That's not saying that I'm discounting the opportunity to go with other people. I walked with a lot of other people, but the silence, nature, quaint little villages, that's it, that's what it's about. And of course, there's a lot of physical and mental and emotional challenges because you're out there and you're tired and you're hot and you're sweaty and your feet hurt and your knees hurt or whatever hurts, and And we'll get homesick, and you think, okay, what's next? What's next? And of course, the trail is next. Next slide. So, I'm going to talk about the Camino community, also as part of the spirit of the Camino. And this picture represents part of the first group. The first group, and there are 3 groups that I consider part of this Camino community. The first group represent people who serve us, people who own or host or volunteer or work at albergues, which are simply hostels, dorms. And yes, I communal lived the whole time. But I don't have a picture of any of my hosts. Not a one. I'm so disappointed. This is my first night on the trail. This is at a private albergue owned by a couple, and this is all of the pilgrims who stayed that night. But what the picture represents is, and you may not be able to see well, is the fact that we're all enjoying port wine and sweet cakes. And there's the container of sweet cakes and the port wine next to it, and we're all having a great time. And this couple does this every day or every evening. It's their life is to run this and do that. And they were fantastic hosts. And I will come back to this picture again, but that's the example. Go ahead with the next one. Okay, so before I lost the guidebook, I ended up at this restaurant with a German couple who couldn't speak much English. And I thought the proprietor looked familiar. He was grumpy, he was gruff. His restaurant was packed. We got the last table. Hence why we were sitting together. And this was lunchtime. This was a late lunch. And it was just himself and one waitress serving everybody. There were locals and there were pilgrims in there. And all of a sudden, I realized he's in the guidebook. There's a picture of him and a short special write-up. He is a friend of John Brearley, who passed away last year. And as soon as he was shown this in the guidebook, he lit up. And then he started treating us like we were old friends. He had time for us. And I visited with him afterwards when I paid. And we talked. And then I couldn't get away to get to the albergue, which I wanted to, because if you want a lower bunk, you want a lower bunk, right? And if it's a public albergue, you can't book it in advance, and it's first come, first served. So I wanted a lower bunk, and I was heading to one. And then he talked my legs off and asked me a ton of questions. And his name is Antonio, and he was wonderful. Oh, and I should add, veal lunch, a pretty sizable portion of veal, pilgrim menu, which many places have a pilgrim menu, with potatoes and rice and salad, and is €8. So that's kind of under $9, or just about $9. So if you can think about a place here where you can get a veal dinner for $9, let me know here, right? Anyway, next one. Okay, so the Portuguese route is supposed to be easy to moderate, relatively flat. For those of us who live here in the Midwest, who are used to being flatlanders, right? It's nothing like that. This is a small mountain. This man is running down. He's jogged past me going up. And he's jogged past me going up. About 45 minutes later, he's running down. And I'm trying to get my camera out to get a picture, and he's giving me a thumb up. He just gets past me, and he comes to a hard stop, and he says, water, agua. And then he gives me these hand directions, vista. And he's telling me where fresh water is so I can fill my bottles, which people did along the way. There are freshwater taps on the way. Now, often I bought water at a cafe because I wanted to use the bathroom. And you need to buy something if you're going to do that, okay? Anyway, another local, another helpful local. Next one. Okay, this is one of my favorite ones. This woman, I don't know her name. She spoke Portuguese. I'm still in Portugal at this point. I'm with Stan, by the way. I'll come back to Stan. You can see glasses here. She's given Stan and I oranges when we stopped to look at her shrine. I wanted to take a picture of the shrine. She came out with oranges. She started talking with Stan. Stan's from southwestern England, but knows Spanish. They're kind of communicating. It's not an exact similar language. And he says to me, he says, she's inviting us in for a glass. I'm hot, tired, and sweaty. I want to get to the public albergue, okay? But he says then, Stan was very interesting. He says, I don't know if this is a business transaction or gratis. But that was Stan. So we go up to her porch, and she pours us. She runs in and she comes out, and she's pouring us sangrias. And we drink a bunch. And then she insists on refilling our glasses. And I'm thinking, I don't need all this wine. I don't need this much alcohol at this point. First week was very hot. But she won the standoff. And she filled our glasses right to the brim. He even spilled a little of his. And I drank some more down, and then I realized I'm in trouble because she still has more in her bottles, right? What am I going to do? Anyway, a young man comes along, thankfully, and she pours him some. And he kind of walks by, just kind of, oh, like, and so she waved him in and gave him an orange and poured him. But a trail angel, you know, somebody who, yes, probably wanted attention, but also wanted to take care of us. And the oranges there were to die for. Huge and to die for. Next one. Okay, you saw at the end of the gathering music, this man, I saw him twice, and another bagpiper once. And I point this out because, of course, he's doing this for us to procure some things from him and for donations. But when you're a couple 100 meters away or 300 or whatever it is, and you hear that bagpipe, all of a sudden you're not tired anymore. You've got energy. It's like you can't see him, and he's out here in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. He's doing it for us. He's doing it for the donations too, but he's doing it for us. And that gives you some energy, and you can hear him a long way off too. It was just wonderful. Next one. Okay, nobody in this picture. I'm leaving early in the morning. I'm in Spain at this point. Yes, it's still dark, it's early. Right after this picture, I came upon a local, and I was coming into the split, a very narrow split in the street, and I couldn't distinguish the yellow arrows. And so I had to consult, at this point, an app. I'm using an app that allows me to be in airplane mode, and it's using GPS only, so I can see where I'm at compared to the trail, compared to the route. And I'm consulting that, and he comes up and he's speaking to me, well, Portuguese or Spanish, I don't know, because I don't really know either, right? And he takes me by the arm and he starts moving me along, and he's a local, and he's talking to me for 5 minutes, and I'm just kind of going, And he's talking to me for 5 minutes, and he leads me to the bridge where I need to cross, and then he says, Buen Camino, good way, good path. And I'm on my way. And I had so many locals help me, because every now and then I might have missed an arrow. I had a situation where I left a farmer's market. I missed the arrow. I'd gone around the farmer's market. I came out, got on the wrong, it was a road walk, part of a road walk, and a car pulled up beside me, and the window came down, and the man said, Camino? And I shook my head, yes, and he just simply pointed back. Buen Camino, or I was still in Portugal, Bum Camino, got me back on my way. And sometimes they actually didn't say anything, they just pointed. So, but I only missed them once or twice, right? Okay, next slide. Okay, we're back to this picture of the first night. And I'm going to point this one out. John Dolzel and I have talked about this, and he asked me if there was anybody I didn't ever want to walk with. And the man over here in this picture in the yellow t-shirt, yes, the only person I ever met that I would not have wanted to walk with. His views are quite different from mine. Need I say more? Anyway, the woman in the pink on the right, her name's Miriam, and I think she was from Porto, so she was local, and I think she watched out for me a little bit. She watched out for the woman in red on the left, who's from Brazil, and we're both first-time Caminoers. She's watching out for us, and there were times when I'd be ahead of her, even though she was walking faster. She directed me to keep from missing an arrow. She pointed out fresh water to me. I know she was helping the woman on the left there. But this is the second group, which is other pilgrims. So the first group of people who serve us, the second group are pilgrims, right? Other pilgrims, making sure we're on our way. Next one. And here's me with Stan, who's from southwestern England, and Stan did, this is outside the house of the woman who gave us the sangria and oranges. And Stan did admit to me, we walked some together a couple of days, and we had dinner together a couple of times, and he admitted he was a bit on the autism spectrum, and he was very very interesting. And Stan and I have kept up a little bit on WhatsApp, but he did tell me the kilometers go faster when you walk together. But then he said, and it also helps me because then I probably won't miss an arrow. So, next one. And this is Jasper. This is a young man who came along and kind of rescued us by drinking the rest of her sangria. Anyway, Jasper walked fast. I tried to keep up with him later, but he got finished a day ahead of me. Okay, next one. So that mountain where I had the local, this is the vista from the top. I'm pointing this one out for a couple of reasons. Before I got to the mountain, I came upon a young man who had a severe case of blisters on his toes. And you're always trying to help other people because other people are trying to help you. And I asked him if everything was okay, and he said something in Portuguese, but shook his head yes. So I went on. And then I realized I can't help him with the blisters he's dealing with, but maybe I can help him prevent getting more, because I have Uber prepared, and I have what are known as toe socks with little toesies you can fit your toes into to prevent you from getting blisters between your toes. And I've got 3 pairs. And I tried to give, I came back, I fished a pair out of my pack, tried to give him, he wouldn't take them. I explained, I have one on my feet, I have one in my pack, and I have one for you. And then he took them. And he saw me the next day and was really happy, really happy. The next opportunity that I want to mention regarding this picture is, okay, I'm at the top, and I spent about 45 minutes here. I remember specifically bringing a banana because I knew what the elevation was going to be, and I wanted something like that. I had an energy bar. I refilled my water at the top, and I'm getting ready to leave, and a woman comes up, a pilgrim comes up, all disheveled, and I didn't recognize her, and she says, "Hello, Chuck." And I think, okay, and then I realized, Jen, it's Jen, who I don't have a picture of. I don't have a picture really of 2 or 3 of the women along the way, actually, who I interacted with some. But Jen has been shepherding her parents, who are a little older than I am. She's been shepherding them on this Camino. They're from Montreal. She's bilingual. her parents mostly speak French. And I'm ready to leave, but we talk a bit. I tell her about the fresh water, of course. But where are your parents? And she said, well, they insisted I go ahead. We talked for a few more minutes, and I'm about ready to go. And then she makes some comment about, maybe I need to go back down and look for them. Now, I want to tell you, I'm the only one up there with her. Nobody else has come along. And I'm thinking, I need to go back down. I can't not. Anybody else would do that for me. And then I realize we're going to have to leave our packs up here, because I sure as heck am not going to go down, maybe take one of their packs along with my own on my back. Not doing it. Not. And then her mother appeared, and then a minute later her father appeared, and they were uber hot and sweaty and tired, but they were okay. And they got refreshed, and I made sure everything was okay, and I wished them well and went on. So, but that's what you would do. That's what you should do, you know. Not what I would have wanted to have done, certainly. And next one. So this is Michael. Michael is from Ireland and happens to live, I mentioned we had a son, we have a son and stepdaughter who live in Ireland, and he asked where, and it turns out he's only 40 or 50 miles from them on the west coast. And so we spent most of a day walking. We had a Mike with us for a little bit too, who apparently was constantly getting lost. He wasn't using a map, he didn't have a guidebook, he was trying to use Google Maps and just watch the arrows, but we got him to the hotel he was at. And this is right after we crossed from Portugal into Spain, and we crossed a long bridge. And then we got off track, and Michael got us back on track, which it's always good to have another pilgrim to help you get back on track, even though I could have used my app. But we had a good talk. And like many, he was walking faster than I was, so taller, longer stride, so I wished him to go on and get ahead of me. I think I said to him, I can either walk with you at your pace without talking, but I can't walk at your pace and talk. So anyway, next one. Okay, this is another one where I had dinner with this woman, a retired Swiss airline pilot. I've got a picture of the meal, this grilled sea bass meal, which was fantastic, one of the best ones I had, but I don't have a picture of her. And she's lived in Texas for 30 to 40 years. A petite, silver-haired woman. So when I heard this Swiss voice with this southern drawl, imagine, I just thought, what is that? What is that voice? But she asked if I wanted to go to dinner, and we went to dinner. And she later explained she didn't feel unsafe on the trail, but in a large city, she didn't feel comfortable. So anyway, so we shared dinner. We both had that, and it was fantastic. Next one. Okay, so here's Pedro. This is the last day of walking coming into Santiago. It's a long day, and there's also quite a bit of ascent going up on this easy to moderate flat trail, flat route. Anyway, so Pedro lives in Porto. He's with a group of others from Porto, but he slowed down to walk with me, and we talked a lot. And Pedro shared a lot of things from his life. He's 40 years old. He's raising, at this point now, an 8-year-old by himself. He shared about a lot of the difficulties because he's raised this son since basically infancy, and he's got an ex-wife who has a lot of problems, emotional and mental problems. So, and we even talked about his work, and I even got a bit into consultant coach mode. I don't know why, but I did because I started asking questions anyway. But I also wished him on because he's with his group and they're walking faster. And this is a selfie we took as I wished him to go on. And this is the last day, right? Great people along the way. So next slide. Okay, so we're in Santiago, and this is the great cathedral behind us. And that picture doesn't do justice of the cathedral. It's huge. It goes well back, and it's got lower structures out to each side. It's huge. And so I arrived, it was a long city walk in Santiago to get to the cathedral. And I'll try to hurry up. And there's a long city walk there. And I get to the courtyard of the cathedral, and I hear somebody calling my name, and it's Pedro. And you have to realize that because you need 2 stamps in the last 100 kilometers to get a certificate, last 60 miles, that a lot of people will come over, take a week of vacation, and they will come in on one of the routes right beyond the 100-kilometer mark and finish. So you start out in much solitude or some solitude, and then as you get closer, all of a sudden there's tons of people. The number of places to stay are greater, but there's tons of people. So, and the courtyard's full of people. So anyway, that's getting there. Next slide. And this is, I'll ask Pedro if he wanted to go have a celebratory dinner. But there was a young woman from Porto, and he had better plans. So this is Bjork from Germany. He's just finished 5 weeks of Camino. He's done 2 routes. He's done the Primitivo route, and then he's gone back partway on the French route and done the French route. So he's got 2 certificates. He's got a wife, 2 kids. He's homesick. He's got to leave early the next morning, but we celebrated and had dinner, and we were staying at the same albergue. Okay, next slide. So who's in the third group that represent the spirit of the Camino? If the first group has the people who service and the second group have other pilgrims, who's in the third group? Yes, people back home. Another slide. Yes, I had to throw that in. There she is. Yes, exactly. People back home. Okay, so I need to wrap up here because of time, but so what I have to say, if you want to jump us ahead one more, Ken. So the spirit of the Camino. So, I want to reinforce the fact that the solitude, the being disconnected, putting one foot ahead of each day after day, you do get into routines. I have, in fact, a list of my routines back there on a table, and a bunch of stuff back on a table in the gathering place, and we can talk more about that back there. But that solitude and reflection is really important. And notice that I've avoided the question of why I went, and we don't have time for congregational reflections, so you'll maybe have to ask me back there. But, it really is one of, how do I best articulate it? There are times I'm talking to Karen on video from the albergue on Wi-Fi, and I said, "What day is it?" I don't know what day it is. It's just another day. I'm getting up, I'm putting on the shoes, I'm packing, I'm leaving, I'm walking, I'm seeing nature, I'm reflecting, I arrive. What day is it? I don't know. That's the first time in my adult life that I can remember that kind of sensation. It is an unbelievable kind of set of things going on to be in that kind of place. And of course, I've got to talk about the Camino community. Here's a morning when I've left early. It is dark. And am I walking by myself? Yes, but not really. There's a bunch of people ahead of me in a couple of groups, and a bunch of people behind me as individuals. And I would also share too, about 20%, no, probably a quarter of all the people I saw walking on that Camino route were women by themselves. More women by themselves than men by themselves. So let that sink in. Did I ever feel unsafe? Not a bit. I felt safer there than if I might be out walking here in Elkhart. Just saying, not a bit did I worry. And I had one rain day. One rain day. So I'm going to go back and find my abandoned self again. And that is the spirit of the Camino. I'll fire up the next things here in a moment.
Thank you, Chuck. Wonderful. Hymn 121, We'll Build a Land. One of my favorites. Please stand if you're willing and able. And then we'll be seated after the benediction to listen to the postlude.
The spirit of the Camino, I guess what I want to say is that I hope that someday, soon, all of the positive aspects of support and encouragement and love and concern for each other that I felt on the Camino will be felt by everybody around the world, including our leaders, and that, as Pastor Mariah told us a few weeks ago, we'll have nurturing, we'll have caring, and that doesn't have to be just women, that can be men, but that is what we will have throughout the world. Blessed be, go in peace, amen.
7 bells to 4. Frighten off the horses and also the waves. A lion's heart, an opening heart, and a soul as old as slaves. Somewhere along the way, somewhere along the way, I hope you find what you're looking for. Somewhere along the way, cellos on a soundboard beneath a field of stars, La Familia growing, crossing fields afar. Will you walk beside me? Will you lead the way? Footsteps by the fountain carry me away. Somewhere along the way, somewhere along the way, I hope you find what you're looking for. Somewhere along the way. How will I ever forget the Spanish sunrise, the Spanish sunset? El Peregrino Cantante, the fullness of the moon, pressed beneath the arches, the sunflowers in bloom. Words on parchment paper fill an empty room. I hope this blessing, such as it is, finds you in full bloom. Somewhere along the way, somewhere along the way, I hope you find what you're looking for. Somewhere along the way, somewhere along the way, somewhere along the way, I hope you find what you're looking for. Somewhere along the way. Somewhere along the way, buen camino. Somewhere along the way, I hope you'll find what you're looking for.